Like we've had some pretty contentious meetings.
Yeah, we have.
Like crazy contentious meetings.
Where everybody's like swinging their books at each other.
Getting pretty close. But at the end of the day, we get to a place that we all feel good about it. We're resolved issues and tension, and we are all aligned.
That's incredible. Okay, welcome back to the Restaurantology Podcast, where we talk about all things restaurants, the study of restaurants. Today I have with me two of my good friends and two of our greatest leaders in savory, Emery Winward. He's our Vice President of Operations.
Yep.
How long have you been with us, by the way?
Going on 6 years now.
So I put down 5. So
past 5. So.
You've passed the 5.
Yep.
You anniversaried the 5. That's amazing, brother.
Yeah.
It's been a great 5 years.
Yeah, it's wild.
I remember we tried hard to get you. Like
Yeah,
it was like we were luring, we were doing like, I don't know, dangling things in front of you to just get you to focus on us. And then finally you were like, we'll date.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
funny.
we'll jump in.
Well, Jessica kept telling me, come on board. Come on board,
I remember that. It's like, Jessica, what do we have to do to get him over here? No, but it's been great to have you. And then we also have also a good friend of mine, Nathan Breneman. He is our Vice President of Training and Ops Services for the brand as well. And you've been with me for 12.
Yep.
Is it 12?
Yeah, going on 13 this year.
Holy cow. See, I was close on both of you, and I literally wrote that down as a guess, thinking
2011.
Man,
Crazy.
that was a different time in life for both of us.
Completely different time.
We were actually just talking about our kids. Our kids were much younger then, weren't they? They were babies.
Yeah, I remember when you got the Tesla Roadster at that time, and then you got rid of it when they started catching on fire.
Yeah, they caught on fire, so I'm like, I got to get rid of that thing.
But I was like, man, that's going way back in time.
It's going way back in time. So we're here today with the two op pros for R&R Bbq, one of our greatest brands in our portfolio, and one that has probably seen and experienced, I would say in my mind, probably the biggest roller coaster experience. And I think that when you go through those experiences in a brand or in a company, I think that you learn the most too, right? I really truly believe that. We had spent many, many years with our bakery and cafe concept. We went through some roller coaster rides, but not anything close to R&R's, because we had this little thing that happened called the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the pandemic, especially with this brand is, well, why don't we have you explain what the brand is? It's R&R Bbq, but how would you explain the style and the type of restaurant that R&R is?
Yeah, it's we like to call it Rocky Mountain Barbecue.
Yes.
We're kind of a style of all the regional barbecues in one. We do a lot of Texas barbecue though. So a lot of dry rub, a lot of regional barbecue though with vinegar, stuff like that with our pork.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say we like to call ourselves Lux Casual. Like we're not just fast casual. We're above and beyond that.
Yeah, I like that Lux Casual. It is, if you think about fast casual nowadays too, used to be just fast casual, but now there's the Lux, there's the polished, there's the premium. Everybody's kind of figuring out what their position is in the fast casual world. And I think that customers experience, they expect that too. They want, if they're going to go into a Lux Casual location, they're going to pay a little bit more for the food. It needs to be something a little bit more than just fast casual.
Oh, for sure.
Isn't that how you guys feel about it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, it's like we can put ourselves into a box. If we say we're fast casual, it's like we have to fit into these boxes that other fast casuals are. But why can't we not have a fine dining element in our dining room with a fast casual checkout process?
Yeah, for sure.
Know? And it's like, for us, it's about that experience at the end of the day. What drives R&R is amazing experiences guaranteed. That's our noble cause. That's what we chase all the time.
Yeah.
And sure, we fall short occasionally, but that noble cause is what helps us stay in the right lane continually.
Yeah.
And it allows our fans and our crew to hold us accountable too at that same point, where it's like, are we guaranteeing an amazing experience for them? So it's like, that's really the heart of it for us at the end of the day, is kind of living and breathing that noble cause with R&R.
Yeah, the experience. Everybody talks about that. It's like we're experiential dining, and then you go into some of those places, you're like, what was the experience supposed to be? Because I didn't feel anything other than
experience. Is that the experience you're selling?
That's right. And so I think that experiential dining, or having a better experience, there's a lot of pieces to that. And I think that you can't have a restaurant or a business, because this is not just for restaurants, but a business at all, that gives or provides a good experience unless you have incredible people, right? So we're here today to talk about people. People is probably one of the hardest parts of any business, especially in the hospitality and the F&B industry as well. All of us are patrons. I'm a patron too. I walk into restaurants sometimes and I leave and I'm like, boy, that was a not great execution there because of the people.
Yeah.
And if you get bad food, a lot of times you're sitting down eating the food and you're like, that was not good execution by the people in the kitchen either. So people are really the ones that create a good, or exceptional, or a bad experience, right? So we're going to talk about people today. We're going to talk specifically about accountability and retention, which I think is probably one of the biggest hot points or topics right now in the industry, because we went through this evolution, and I think that most that are listening to this, we lived this together. And the evolution was, you could get any store that you opened or any store that you had holes on your roster, you could get them filled fairly quick. Back in the 2010 to 2018, 19, it was fairly easy. I mean, it was pretty easy. Then it got really easy during COVID, right? Because there was a plethora of people that were unemployed because shops closed. And then we went through a phase where it was just impossible.
You're competing with everyone.
Yeah. It's literally like half the earth disappeared. And we still had just as many people want to eat, but we didn't have enough people to actually fill the jobs.
An internal dialogue where we were like, it was like stock prices, watching the minimum wages that were being advertised out there. And we were day traders on that almost. Like we had to continually increase what we were offering as a minimum wage because other people were desperate trying to get people into their businesses because everyone was competing and everyone wanted a higher wage.
It's funny. It's like we're day traders.
Really?
It almost felt like that too. Like you know how you look at the gas stations and then they're like, we'll flip it up a couple cents and then they flip it up a couple cents. I almost felt like it was that way. 25 cents more here at Chick-fil-A and then across the street, 50 cents more at McDonald's, and they were all day trading. I remember that.
I just remember during the pandemic, Nate and I would be talking about, we needed to do everything we could to keep the business going, to keep people employed, because we didn't want to have to re-grand open every store.
No.
And like lay off a bunch of people. And like, how are we going to hire and open all the stores again? Because it was going to end sometime. We just didn't know exactly when.
Yeah.
So that was like our internal dialogue and our internal goal the entire time is, what do we do to keep people employed? What do we do to keep revenue so we can keep people employed?
That's right.
Because we didn't want to have to all of a sudden re-grand open every location, retrain everybody. But at the same time, we wanted to do right by our team. And we want to do everything that we could to keep them going the entire time.
Yeah, that was the hard thing during that time, is most restaurants just said, well, I'm just going to shut the doors and go home and we'll see what happens. That was without PPP even being a thing. Nobody knew what the future was. For us, we all just bit down and said, listen, people still need jobs. You still need employment. And we need to galvanize our teams. And we also have to galvanize our clientele, our patrons with us as brands. And that's what happened, I think, with R&R. The one thing I can say, because I don't know if you guys know what you can share and can't share about R&R, but during that time, we got hit probably harder in R&R than we did almost all of our portfolio companies.
Oh, for sure.
And one of the main reasons is because R&R Bbq is such a catering heavy business. And we were also in the Delta Center, which was where the Jazz played. They still play. And there was no games. The NBA had shut down too. So we got whacked so hard, and it was breathtaking.
On top of COGS then too.
Yeah.
Like with proteins and stuff going through the roof for us. So
it was like a triple whammy. There's no people, there's no business, and then we have higher costs.
Yeah.
And I will say now, as you fast forward 4 years, we literally have fought our way to the point where, honestly, the brand could not be in a better position now. I'm as pleased as I've ever been about the brand. And one thing that listeners should hear too is that of all of our 11 brands in our portfolio, and even brands that we're looking at right now making an acquisition of, you guys are doing the best at retention than any of them. You have better retention scores than any of our other brands. So that's one of the main reasons we wanted to have you on today, to say, what the hell are you doing? Because everybody wants to know, how are you keeping people? Because when you lose people, we all know in this industry, it is extremely expensive to replace people, and people don't get that.
Yep.
When you're running a business, you're like, fire that person, hire new. It didn't work, fire that person. It's really expensive to have that rotating wheel of people. So I'm going to start speaking less, because I really want you guys to start sharing with the listeners the tips and tricks of what you guys are doing to not only hold people accountable, but then to also retain them, because I think that they go hand in hand. If you hold someone accountable, they feel successful, they feel like they're doing their job well, you compensate them better, they feel more like a team, then of course they stay around, right, longer. And if they stay around longer, the whole business benefits from that, in my opinion. So let's start with that first, with you, Nate, since you kind of head up training for us. What are you guys doing, and what are some of the tips and tricks on the accountability measures? What specifically does that mean to hold someone accountable, and how do you hold them accountable?
Yeah. I think one of the big things at R&R is we really try to Live and breathe transparency in what we're doing. We found that if we allow individuals to kind of create their own narrative for why a behavior is happening, it usually goes in the wrong direction. So we try to be transparent with everything that we do, why we make decisions, financials, what causes us to change behaviors and stuff, and allow them to see that aspect. All of a sudden, I think when you bring that component in there, and granted, there's times where people feel like, can I trust this individual with this information? Well, a lot of times we think, well, why have you even hired them then? You should be able to trust them with the information right from the get-go because you're hiring the right person. When we do that and we start controlling the narrative on why we make decisions, it makes it a lot easier then for us to hold them accountable to their job because they understand what is our job. And that is part of our job, is to kind of make sure they understand how they fit in with the rest of the brand and how they can contribute. But at the same time, we give them permission for their own autonomy, their own freedom in what they're doing. And that's through, we do scorecards. We give them tools so that they can measure themselves to see, like, how am I showing up? Or is this just me thinking that I'm doing a much better job than I'm really doing? But that's also then when we start leaning into one-on-ones. One-on-ones is something from day one when me and Emery took over after the president moved on to other options, that like we knew one-on-ones was the key. If we could build FaceTime between a leader and their subordinates, they're reporting to them, a relationship will be built. And it's something that Emery and I deeply believe in. Relationships build revenue, whether it's with a customer or it's with your hourly employees. It builds revenue. But there's got to be a relationship there at some level.
Yeah, that's incredible. So some of the points that I took down from that, because I just learned something, but that I also feel is hard for some people to grasp, is trust. Trust is something where people say, well, I don't know if I can trust them. We'll see if they build trust with me. And in my mind, I'm like, that's not how trust works. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I just hired the person. I have to trust them immediately until they give me a reason I can't trust them. So that's the thing about employing people and retaining them, is I have to trust them and show them that I trust them immediately. And if I do, they'll usually react and perform better right out the gate.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
Yeah, we talk a lot to our GMs and a lot to our district managers about when we hire people, they start working for R&R Bbq, but they need to start working for the GM, or they need to start working for the DM. That's who they eventually start working for. And that's when you start building the retention and how long they're going to be with them, because they build that relationship, they build that trust, they build that camaraderie between each other. And that's when they stay long. Instead of, I just work for R&R, it's like, no, I work for Nate, or I work for Emery, or I work for Jake. That's when they're going to start staying longer, because they trust the people. They want to work for the people because they're building that relationship. They're honest, they're transparent. That's when you get people to stay a really long time.
Yeah, I love it. The transparency word too, I will say, I've had a real hard time holding my cards close to my chest with business. And there are some things that I would say are not secret, but they should be held in kind of a tighter circle about business when you're making certain decisions. But I would say for the most part, transparency helps you. And I think that once you are more transparent with especially your leadership teams, I feel like they lean in more, right? Their hands are in the middle saying, we can do this. And it's not just, I'm here to support and serve the company and you and do what you say. It's more, hey, I've got an idea, and you're like, give it to me. Because I think that transparency puts everybody's hand on it.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Yep.
As far as transparency, also the type of data that you provide to the team. When you say be transparent, are you transparent about performance? Are you transparent about financials? What else are you transparent about, the two of you?
All of that. They see exactly what we see when it comes to financials, when it comes to performance in the location. They need to see how they're doing. We don't want to just hold it and then surprise anybody with, hey, you're not doing great with this. They know quickly if there's something that's slipping. We don't hold it in our close to our vest. We go and we tell, hey, this is what's happening.
Well, and also you probably have others in the team holding each other accountable with that transparency. If something comes up about you that's going on in your store and you hear about it, behind the scenes, you're probably also talking about how to help each other, because that transparency is part of that ecosystem.
We all speak the same language. It's kind of cool when we hear these stories where it's like one of the individuals will go into a store and then someone will follow shortly on 3 days later, and they're saying the same thing when they walk into the store. We all speak the same language. We all look at the same things. And with that transparency, It's also about us giving the team the tools to know transparently how they're performing. So the minute we see how they're performing, they see how they're performing. And the conversation usually revolves around us going, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Not me coming in going, you suck. You're deficient here. I need to know that you see what I'm seeing. And if I'm seeing it weird,
let me know.
Let me know, like you say, so we can dive into this. This came up for us when we made the decision to stay open, extending our hours of operation from 9 to 10 o'clock. We had a lot of GMs that just couldn't see, why would we do that? We have so little sales coming in right now. But it's like, we don't care about that right now. We're thinking about, where is R&R a year from now? What is that Saturday night a year from now? Are we funding the future with this? Well, then we had to start going into the data, looking at it, going, here's what you're spending on labor. Here's what we're actually bringing in. Is it worth it for us to stay open? And it really was. The data was saying that we were still bringing in more money than what we were expending. But it wasn't my decision. It was the team's decision. And we had to get them all to see what we were seeing. And the minute we did, we have not heard a single word about being open till 10 o'clock ever since then.
Talk to me about one-on-ones. That's an interesting one because I think people talk about it, but they don't do it. And the thing is it takes time, right, out of your schedule. And it's something that you actually have to focus on. Like, boy, I can't keep pushing off this one-on-one with Emery or with Andrew because there's a counterpoint to that where if you don't have your one-on-ones, I think performance starts going down for people.
Correct.
In my mind.
Absolutely.
So this will be two-pronged. Yep. So before we even got into the one-on-ones, I think the hardest part with one-on-ones is, how do I schedule it? That becomes the hurdle that becomes insurmountable for most individuals, because it's like another thing I need to do in my already busy day as a general manager. I've got all these checklists, all these other things to do. I see you every day anyways as an hourly employee. I'm considering that as a one-on-one because I stopped by and just said, hey, how's your day? Check, I'm good. What we decided was, let's put this in our employees' hands, not the general manager's hands. And so we built a system that allowed the hourly employees to schedule their own one-on-ones. We got time blocks for each of the GMs that are blocked out for them automatically into their schedule. And the hourly employees have a QR code that they would just click and sign up. And that's how we started getting one-on-ones going. The other phase then was, we wanted to incentivize our GMs that this was a good thing that they should be doing. So we give annual raises to our hourly managers or our salaried managers based on their performance that they're already performing. And in order for them to get that, we changed one of their metrics that they need to every single quarter have at least one one-on-one with every single individual in their entire store. If they're a new GM taking over a location, they had to have a one-on-one every single period in order to qualify for their bonus. So we tied some sort of fiscal incentive to them to be like, build a relationship. It's good. It took us a while, right, Emery?
Yeah. And Nate literally said what I was going to be saying about how we incentivized the GMs to be part of their compensation plan. But we did turn it over to the employees because it was like pulling teeth at first to make sure our one-on-one's happening. It was like a huge focus for me, a huge focus for the district managers of, are we following up? They're saying yes, but do we know that it's actually happening? Yeah, right. But once we built that system and Nate got that system going where they can scan the QR code and we can actually record who's having the one-on-one, what percentage of the one-on-one in the store, all of a sudden we started to see them go from, yeah, I'm doing them, to, I know you're not doing them. You need to be doing your one-on-ones. Yeah. So the accountability came in really quick once we were able to track and record. But then, we did incentivize that. It's to the point now that it's not something that we have to necessarily hound them about because they're seeing the fruits of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, so tell me what the GMs are seeing from doing the one-on-ones and what they're telling you guys back as far as the benefits.
Well, it's pretty wild for me when I go into the stores. I go into the stores now, and a few years ago, it'd be like I would see new faces all the time. Now I see a new face and it's like, who's this? Because we keep people around for so long. Well, Nate and I did a breakdown of our tenureship, and 48% of our employees are over a year tenureship now in the restaurant.
It's not normal in this industry.
No, it's not. It's pretty wild. So when I go into a store, I can pinpoint somebody. That person's brand new. Tell me about them. I go and talk to them. But they are seeing that they don't have to train all the time.
Yeah.
They're not having to hire all the time. They're keeping the team around that knows every position. So, hey, if they're down one person one day, this person knows that spot. This person knows that spot. So the GMs are seeing the benefit big time with not having to always interview, not having to always train, not always having somebody only knows one position. And they're starting to reap the benefits of
It's
that.
so distracting, isn't it?
Oh my
when you
gosh.
have a new person in a new role, once they get trained, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you ever want to lose that person? So investing into that person's success makes a
It's
lot
kinda
of
funny
sense.
when you think about it, like the quote where it's like, they don't ever have the money to do it the right way the first time. I don't have time. I don't have the energy to sit down and develop you, but I somehow have the money and time to do it over and over and over with every single new hire that I'm trying to bring on and pay. So I have all this money that I am spending on all these individuals, bringing them in this revolving door at my location. But can I take that same amount of effort and time and just invest it in one person up front? You're going to get an ROI. When we found out how many employees were still with us that were over a year, we're like, we need to dig into this. This is a data mine for us. So Emery and I coordinated with the team and we went and interviewed every single one of these guys to figure out like, why are they staying with us? And there was 5 key takeaways that we took from them. 1, fostering a positive culture. That's something that's huge. The team feels like there's a family-like support network because we really do have that support structure there inside the stores. They feel valued and they care so much now about who we bring in the door that it's like they're defending who stays with us.
They've galvanized the team to the point where it's their team now.
Yeah.
Who do we allow into our tribe? Right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And if someone doesn't fit, they know really quick.
Yeah. They get squeezed out
real quick.
Yeah.
now.
Real quick.
And then the other one was engaged with leadership. The team is engaged with leadership because for us, I think accountability is 2 ways. It goes 2 ways.
Sure.
I am accountable to my team. I'm accountable to all of the hourly employees. I'm a steward of them, but their job is to protect my job by giving me information so I can see what's going on out there. If they're holding that information to themselves and not allowing me to have that insight to better navigate the company, shame on them. So it's a 2-way street where we have a responsibility to each other. And I think sometimes that in and of itself is kind of missed. And for them and for us, we ensure our leadership is approachable. That's where the 101s come into play. We've heard a lot of times in our EMPS scores in the very beginning when we took over that certain leaders weren't approachable and they were only approachable with certain individuals in their stores that they built relationships oddly enough with, right? So it's like, no, you need to have relationships with everyone in your store and they can be at varying
levels. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is with the regular 101s and recognition from the managers, now the employees feel like, if I see something, I can say it to you and you'll listen to me, whether it's an improvement or a concern or an opportunity in the business. And I think a lot of our best ideas have come from the individuals in the front line.
Always will.
Right?
Yeah.
The other one was offering competitive compensation. This is something Emery and I have really strived to do because if I can incentivize you to stay here for another year or 2, why would I not pay you more? I'm not losing out on money.
No.
I'm gaining something.
You're gaining.
And this started with our catering coordinators in the beginning. It was the first position that Emery and I tackled right away because we saw it as a massive opportunity. It was a revolving door on individuals. And we really built a competitive pay package for them that's driven by them. And we painted this picture for the GMs where it would be like, what would the holidays be where we do over $1 million in sales just through catering if this individual stayed with you for the next 5 years? Like, would you have to think about what you're executing on next year and a year after that? No, you don't. And I think that was like a gateway for us where we started seeing the power of tenure.
Well, it was really having a mindset switch too for some of the GMs about, hey, being competitive with pay isn't necessarily going to break the bank at all. So like, for example, I'd have somebody come up to me and be like, oh, my prep cook's been with us for 2 years. They got offered 50 cents more an hour to go somewhere else or $1 more. And I'm like, would you really give up this person that's been here for 4 years for $40 a week? And they're like, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to pay this person $40 extra a week. Let's say you give them $1 raise, but they make your life easier. The food's perfect. They show up on time. They're going to be loyal to you now because, hey, you matched them. You're competitive within the market.
In fact, I'd give them 45 extra dollars a week.
but just having that mindset flip, because a lot of the time they'd be like, well, we're going to lose her. They wanted $1 an hour. And I'd be like, really? You're going to get rid of somebody that's that important to you for $1?
Yeah, it's crazy if you think about it that way too. But I don't think I like what you said is we spend so much time thinking, oh, I don't have the time or money to do that. But we are letting the leakage at the bottom of the ship happen every single day with just the retention issue. 100%. It's a revolving door and you're spending thousands of dollars.
Yeah. If you look at the hiring costs, the training costs, the
slippage.
Yeah.
Right?
When you have somebody
that's not that great, you're going to have slippage.
Exactly.
Well, and that too, it's like, do it the right way, not the easy way. The easy way is letting people come and go in your business. But that's also you not controlling it. Like you're not in control. The business is running you at that point. And the last two things that we gleaned from this survey and digging in with the team was flexibility and work-life balance. We always talk about that work-life balance, but it's like allowing the crew to have a say in what their schedules are, but also knowing performance gets the hours. You perform, you're going to get the hours. You perform, you're going to have a little bit more flexibility in there. So now everyone's really got this desire to perform. The other thing Emery and I did was individuals that were over a year with us still, they all of a sudden got paid vacation based on how long they've been with us in their full-time hours.
So they earn that.
They earn that after a year. So now we have hourly employees that can, if they get sick, they can take time off now and not have to worry about their families or their own personal finance situation. It was something that we've seen a lot of ROI from the team with this whole process. And then the last thing, which I think is really what Emery and I have really pushed, is support, growth, and development. That's a big one for us. We really want to be growing these individuals. And at R&R, we believe we're building people. We're building humans.
Yep.
And we know, this is something I've taken from you, Andrew, back in the Neaters days, was, this really could just be a stepping stone for their career.
Yep.
This really is. And if I have an opportunity to engage with this 16-year-old and teach them what self-worth means, what hard work ethic means, what accountability means, like that's huge, because these are the next leaders in our community that we're pumping out. So for us, it's like, we really believe we're building people at R&R Bbq. We're in the people business at the end of the day. And if we can get them to take responsibility and show them that they have more control of their situation personally and professionally, we're empowering the next
generation. Yeah. It's interesting. I was sitting with my younger son that's now gone. He's not younger anymore, but I remember sitting with him and some of his friends, and some of his friends are like, yeah, we work at this golf course and we don't do anything. And we just sit in the shed and we just talk and listen to music and we don't work. And I'm like, what the hell are you learning doing that? I always felt like the food and beverage industry, Shauna always calls it the rite of passage. Like you should go work at a restaurant because it teaches you so many different life lessons and skills that you're going to use the rest of your life.
Oh, yes.
And so I do take that very serious, that this industry, it's one of the biggest TAMs in the world, the total market size. It's $1 trillion industry. Mm-hmm. People don't know that. Medical is 1.4 trillion. Food and beverage is 1.1 trillion. It's the second largest TAM on the planet. And why? Because everybody has to eat every single day, and you have the most employment in hospitality and F&B in the world. And in my mind, I think that builds so much character in people with what they're learning. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Emery, is on one-on-ones. So if we go back to one of the things that you said, which, by the way, I thought it was interesting when you went through that list. I thought it was going to be money and then something, then money or compensation, mm-hmm. and then something else revolving around money. And I thought they were all going to be tied to money. And it's interesting.
You can ask Emery. He did quite a few of these. How much did money come up?
It was probably 4th or 5th down the list. Honestly, it didn't come up. Like, we did over 100 interviews, maybe 6 or 7 really said pay and compensation, like, was one of the reasons to stay.
Yeah.
It was all about engagement with leadership, development, challenge. I mean, it's funny that you say that about, your son's friends at work at the golf course. Yeah. It's going to be fun for the summer, but once they're not challenged, they're going to be bored, even though it's easy and they're having fun. They'll quit because they're not challenged.
They're not.
Everybody wants a challenge. Everybody wants to be I don't want to say forced into growth and development, but people do want to be challenged. They want to be like, hey, what can I do to be better? Or how can I get better? If they're just listening to music, it's months and then they're gone.
It was probably eye-opening for you though, when you did the interviews, because I think that you read an article and it says money is not the number one motivator for most employees, whatever. And you read it as an employer or as a leader. And you're like, that's BS. I don't believe that. Because you feel like you're trapped in this circular motion of talking about pay a lot with people. But if you really think about it, I'm not talking about pay with you every week.
Right.
But if I have to talk about it with you and then 30 other people, you might feel like money is the only issue that you're dealing with. Does that make sense as a leader?
100%.
But if you really look at most of your team that is the best part of your team, money doesn't come up very often. It's really because of those other things you guys are talking about that keep people galvanized as a team and performing well. And then I always believe as a leader, you always pay more of the money to the people that are the most dependable, the most centric to your business success.
Yep.
And those are the people that obviously are accountable to their actions.
Yeah. When I was doing the interviews, I wasn't really surprised that it didn't come up a lot, because Nate and I hear about raises. We hear about people wanting money, but we don't hear it often. Like, we don't hear about it often of, hey, this AGM or this GM or this person is needing more money. We don't hear it a ton. So when I was doing the interviews, it wasn't a huge surprise, but it was surprising how far down it was on the list.
Yeah, that's, I think, what was more surprising to me is that it was just further down. Talk to me about one-on-ones. So when you say to someone, do your one-on-ones, I know how I do my one-on-ones, but tell me how you would train a GM to say, okay, well, I've done those, but how do you want me to do them? How do you train a GM to do a one-on-one? What does that conversation look like with an employee so that those that listen go, okay, I want to do them, but how do I do them?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest superpowers that we have in R&R is we walk the walk and we talk the talk. So Nate and I started in the restaurant business as far down as you can go.
It's where you have to start and work. Hey, I was a dishwasher, man.
Yeah. And work your way up. Same with our district managers and our trainers. All of us have experienced being at the bottom and working our way up. So we understand restaurants. We understand exactly what the GMs are going through, what the shift leads are going through, the AGMs are going through. So when we say, hey, we need you to do this, it's not just we came up with an idea.
Yeah.
We know it works. And we know one-on-ones work because, one, we've been through them. We've had them done with us for a long time, right? And develop and coach us. But Nate and I have been doing them so long that we see the benefit of it and we model it. We model it all the time. So when we're saying, hey, GMs, you need to be doing one-on-ones, either Nate and I will go in and help them understand how a one-on-one is supposed to work, or the DMs are doing one-on-one trainings with the GMs. Nate and I do it with our trainers. We do it with our district managers. We do it with the GMs. We make sure that we just don't say, hey, you guys need to do it. We ensure that we do it too. So we are the model. We make sure that we do it every single month. We're meeting with our teams every single week, finding out exactly what's going on in the business. How can we help them grow and develop? But I think modeling it and showing them how it's done and the importance of it is the biggest key factor of like, hey, it's not just sitting down and not going over anything, just saying, hey, how you doing? There needs to be substance to it of growth, development, and challenge. And once they understand that how important that is, they start seeing the benefits and people stay longer.
I love the whole idea of I'm going to do it. Now you go do it.
Right.
So you're training them on what a one-on-one should be. How long should a one-on-one last?
I mean, they can last for as long as it's worth the time.
Yeah.
Right. But
what would you recommend to a GM? Because if you were to say, go have one-on-ones with each of your team members for 3 hours each, it would be like, that's not possible.
No, if you're going to have like a really good one-on-one where you're going to find out how are they feeling about the business? How are they feeling about their job? What are they needing to grow and develop? I'd say 15, 20 minutes is almost bare minimum.
Okay. So that's a good indicator, 15 to 20 minutes. And then how often? What's the frequency of that?
We want them done once a month.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when the employees are having these one-on-ones with your GMs, do they, after 6 months of them or a year of them, they're like, I'm good. I don't need a one-on-one. Do they start to say, I don't need them, or do they look forward to them and they want them?
They look forward to them because they're the ones that are scheduling them now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your nifty little QR thing. I'm learning so much. I need a QR thing on my door so people can just scan it.
That goes back to us though. If you want, because when we did our first NPS score, which was not a proud moment for us, but a good baseline as a brand, that was one of the feedbacks that was in there. because we asked them specifically in there, do you have one-on-ones regularly with your leadership? We wanted to know. And I think that's one thing that we're not shy about. We want to know what we're doing wrong, and I want to know now so I can fix that. And when we saw that they were asking for communication from us, to the point that we started sending out a monthly newsletter to be transparent about the direction of the business, events and updates to the entire brand, because they were crying for communication. They want to know what's up. Well, then when we started doing one-on-ones, it was a very similar experience, and they've evolved. It's like they start out as fact finding in the beginning. This 15 minutes, who are you? What are your hobbies? What sports are you involved in? What do you like about your job? Who's your favorite friend at work? To more personal. It evolves into this. Now I'm not even talking about business. It's like, hey, Emery, how you doing today?
Yep.
What's going on in life? What are you up to? And it's like, now there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
So it's easy now for me to walk up to you then on the line and go, hey, I saw you do something this way. I need you to do it like this. And now you're not taking it like I'm saying you suck at your job. You're taking it as,
you're helping.
Hey, he wants me to be even better.
Yep. That's a good point. Okay. So I go back into my past, and I think started with one restaurant, built 5, then I did 10, and then I went into a new state, and then we did more. And then I bought into another brand, and I remember going, holy crap, we have like 170 restaurants, 10 states, big team. The days of having 1 to 10 or 20 restaurants in one region where you can get to them more frequently and pull together the team, much easier than when you're in multiple states, 2 states, 3 states, 10 states. We're right now in 14 states. It's very different how you operate. All of those same principles apply. Like, you still have to hold people accountable, and you still want high retention.
Right.
And I think that within any business that has a brand that is scaling across America, people always say, well, it's different in this state than it is this state. Because I think that naturally consumers want to just blame brands for that. Like, it's different. Everybody wants McDonald's, right? They want it the same everywhere they go, if they're out of the country or in the country or different state. And it's the hardest part of scaling a brand, right? But I think it does start with accountability and retention across the whole business, not just in one node of the business. So how do you guys, since you're in 2 states, how do you maintain accountability and retention in your out-of-state stores, since you guys are positioned here?
I would say the first thing that Emery and I did, we committed as a leadership team to have a presence there. I think that's usually, we can talk about our pasts where it was like, there wasn't a presence of leadership there continually. So every single week, one of us is going out there to visit it. We look at that as almost like we're bringing the battery charger and we're charging their battery continually. We have to keep that culture there, and we have to hold them accountable. And it's been fun to see the evolution that has happened. And Emery can speak about this more because he's pioneered this with our leadership team and the out-of-state markets, bringing the culture with.
Yeah. So Nate and I, in past lives, we went out in the Midwest and opened up brands.
Yeah.
And if there isn't a lot of, hearing from home base, you do feel like you're on an island. Yeah. And you start creating your own story, your own narrative, or your own culture. That's what's dangerous.
Your own culture, which is dangerous.
That's super dangerous. And that was one of the driving forces of Nate and I saying, we're going to go up every single week because we're going to bring the culture. We're always going to ensure that the culture's up there, because if we have someone from leadership up there every week, it's not like it's going to slip. No, we're going to go up and we're going to make sure that the culture is there. The culture of R&R Bbq is in Idaho, in our Idaho locations. So that is one of the things that Nate said. It's funny to see the evolution. Is at first it was like, okay, we have to get them to be a Utah store, like how they are here,
home-based store.
But they are. It is. It's like the same culture when we go up there now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say presence, because I think presence is an interesting word when you think that sometimes leadership can be present through a Zoom call, a phone call, a text, an email. It's not true.
If you're lying to yourself, it's the only time it's true.
That's right.
Right.
You're checking a box saying, oh, I talked to them.
Yeah. I talk to founders all the time, and when they're in even multiple cities within their home heritage market, and there might be a store that's an hour or 2 away. Mm-hmm. And you say, well, when's the last time you were there? Oh, I go every week. And then when you're in the car with them and I'm looking at the brand, and then they have to pull up their maps to figure out how to drive there.
Sure.
And then they walk in and nobody knows who they are. I'm like, you're not a present leader or a founder. You're not even in your store. They don't even know who you are.
Right.
I think that you might think or kid yourself that I know my people, they know me because I'm texting them and we do Zoom calls. Presence has got to be in person, right? And it's very hard as you grow. So you have to become duplicative. You have to take yourself and duplicate your leadership and your abilities. So there's 2 of you and then 4 of you and then 8 of you. So as you grow as a brand, you can keep that culture and be present in those stores. I think it's great that the 2 of you guys are saying one of us have to be up there. But I just think that one of our great leaders in the brand that you guys have developed being there too, having a presence is, I think, key for
there's so much
building.
There's so much in body language. There's so much in like being with somebody physically, their tone of voice, how a message is delivered versus an email.
That's right.
There's just so much that you get from actually being there in person instead of like, I'm checking the box because I called them on the phone.
That's right. Well, and you were part of my past businesses that I owned, Nate, and I think that you probably heard it from individuals where they said, well, I just liked it what it was like before when you were in the stores with us, Andrew, and you were around more often and we hung out more often. And for me, it was hard because I wanted to be, I just couldn't because we got so much bigger. And I don't think that I did. I'm guilty of this. That's why I'm saying this is a good conversation for everybody to have. This is not a perfect science, right? Like, how do you be everywhere at the same time? But I would say you have to duplicate yourself as much as possible because you're right. As you grow as a business, you can't be everywhere at the same time.
Right.
But it's important to be duplicative.
Absolutely. Like it'd be impossible for me to get up to Idaho every single week.
No,
or Nate to get up there. It'd be impossible. We have to duplicate each other.
That's why you put in for the helicopter.
Yeah, exactly.
The R&R helicopter.
Yes. Well,
I see it. Maybe I'll buy that now because the importance of presence.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we do as a above store leadership brand every week is we do a book club. So every week we get together and we read a book once every month, every 2 months. We go through a book, a leadership book, and we sit and we get together and we discuss, hey, what did you guys learn from this book? What are you pulling from this? How can we apply this to the restaurants, or how are we seeing this alive in the restaurants now? And when we do that, we recalibrate ourselves every single week. So we are all on the same page. We duplicate every single week.
That's incredible. And you guys actually do have everybody read the book too.
Yeah, it's religious.
Religious.
We do not skip the meeting. If there's an important meeting that somebody that wants to set up with us, we can't do it.
How do you pick the books?
So I go through and it's usually books that I've read or the team has voted on, but I usually focus on material that directly applies to what we're dealing with, human beings. So whether it's something in a hospitality industry or right now we're reading Super Communicators because we want to continually add skill sets to our leadership team. And it's been so funny how the most common comment that the team will have is, oh, this week, the section that we had to read, it's so funny how that actually applied to what I'm dealing with right now. And so it's us continually giving them opportunity to see like, there's a better version of yourself out there. Are you looking for it?
Yep.
Let's look for it together as a team. And to Emery's point, that is like one of the things when we talk about 101s and all these other things, we model it because we're doing it with our leadership team. We meet with them every single week to do 101s with them. We don't do once a period. I'm sitting down face to face with them going, okay, what's top of mind for you right now? What are you dealing with? And how can I help you get through that? Well, then the next phase is well, if we do this, why can't the people that are one step beneath us do this? If we're doing it, you as a GM, you should be able to do it because you as a DM and a regional trainer are getting it once a week too. And so we have this trickle down effect that starts happening. And anything leadership wise, whether it's like learning from a book, the DMs are sending articles to their teams and stuff. Hey, let's read this and discuss this at our biweekly district meeting, just to get a conversation around other things than just what I'm locked into day to day. And I start listening to my own narrative and my own voices in my head. We like to expand that quite a bit. So the book club.
So the book club is, what if someone submitted like we should read Fried Green Tomatoes or something like that? Would you say no?
No, we'll say no.
Okay. So it's got to be on a principle. Yeah, it's got to apply. Okay.
You know what's pretty funny about it is, it's developed our leaders, but it's also been pretty life-changing for a lot of us too.
I'm sure.
Because we read the David Goggins book.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I lost almost 100 pounds after I read that book because it kicked me in the mouth. And he was like, I have no more excuses.
Yeah.
Just read it.
He's all about enough with the excuses.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we read that book last summer and There was some
and now you're a specimen because of it. David Goggins, thank you.
No, but seriously, reading that book
changed your life.
It did. It changed my life. Yeah. And it was in book club. I remember reading it, and he was talking about how he had no excuses. He lost like 100 pounds in 3 months to get ready to go to the Navy SEALs. And I just was like, I am a baby.
Yeah. I am full of excuses.
Yep.
Well, and it's cool seeing everyone's different perspectives when they read the same paragraph. And then all of a sudden, as a discussion starts developing, you see everyone all of a sudden start like underlining things in their books or writing little notes in their books and stuff because of one person's perspective on it. And I feel like that's our superpower, because collectively, this is something we've always borrowed from you. It's not who's right. It's what's right.
Yeah, it's what's right.
We care about what's right.
Yeah.
There's no ego in that sense. We want to win collectively as a team. It's not my idea or Emery's idea. It's our idea. Yep. And I think when we go back to accountability and permission, it's like, I don't want to be the sole person making all the decisions. That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of pressure.
It's a ton of responsibility.
I want it to be where, hey, we're sharing that.
Yeah.
If I have a decision or a direction I want to go, you're all signing off on it at our table. We're all owning this together.
That's right. And we'll fail together or we'll win together.
100%.
Yeah. It feels better that way anyway. About accountability, though, I wanted to ask you. So I think that sometimes with people that I've had work with me, I have like, I'm just going to keep on giving them more leash and more leash and more leash just because I like them and I think they're going to get it. But there is a point in time where you're like, boy, they just keep missing out.
Yep.
And I give them little ability to perform, and then they don't. What is the right amount of strikes before you're out?
Nate hit it right on the head with the saying, do they make your job easier? Yeah, we have all the rules and guidelines and performance metrics and performance things that we can look at, and we can say, hey, this person is doing the right thing when it comes to food, labor, revenue, retention of people. But after all said and done, this is what I tell my GMs and I tell my DMs, do they make your job easier? Because I should be making their job easier. They should be making my job easier. And if there's a disparity between that and they're making my job harder, why am I needing this person? They should be making my job easier.
Yeah, that's an incredible way to think about it. So everybody write that down. How do you create a forward-thinking leader? So you're talking, accountability is all about today. It's in the moment. You're reading a book and you're saying, how are we going to apply this today? How do you help people understand how to be forward thinking on what the future looks like?
Can I jump on that real quick?
Yeah.
Just bringing this back to one-on-ones about forward thinking leaders is one of the things that we discovered, and it's been a pleasant discovery, is before we really got the culture of one-on-ones happening, we would always be, hey, we need to hire somebody. We need to have an MIT bench. We need to be finding somebody because we're thin on the bench, and we'd always be looking outside the brand. And once we started doing one-on-ones, we discovered people wanted to grow with us. They wanted to be part of the company. They wanted to develop, and they wanted to become the next leaders. We haven't really had to hire anybody outside of the brand.
It's incredible.
In the last 2 years, we've had one or two here or there.
Sure.
And
that's natural.
They didn't work.
Yeah.
But almost all of our promotions have been internal. And I think that has helped develop forward-thinking leaders of, hey, this person can be grown and developed, and they have a future with the brand. What are they doing? How are they doing it? And they start asking questions within just our hourly employees up to all of our GMs. They're like, what is this person doing that I'm not doing that's helping them understand of what gaps I have in the business?
That's incredible.
And we're not quiet about what it takes to get promoted either. It's not tenure in time.
Yeah.
Just because you've been here forever means, oh, you're an AGM now.
Right.
We've had some AGMs that thought that was the case, and they fell short on very specific metrics that we had to hold them accountable to before they could get promoted. Well, the cool part with that is they earned then that right to be promoted. That brought with it a completely different mindset, because now they don't want to lose it, because they had to go through all of these tests. They had to go and prove all of these things that they were qualified to be in this position, because, like good old Spider-Man quote, but with great power, you have a lot of responsibility that comes into play too.
For sure you do.
Right?
Yeah.
And they do have a lot of responsibility. They're not just this placeholder, that's just in the store. No, their job is to support the GM at that point. Their job is to make the GM's job easier and the hourly employees' jobs easier. My job is to make it easy for them to do their job. That's right. Perpetually in there. So it's been cool seeing the evolution of some of our AGMs that I had to fight to get into that position where we would rather go without an AGM than have the wrong one in that position. And that sent a message to the team when they see that.
So patience is a big part of this, right? When you're working with someone, you see the potential they have and you're just like, I just want to wring your neck because I know you can do this, right? But you have to be patient as a leader because people move at different paces. But I want to talk about the actual performance resulting in better performance results on the financials. So us as leaders, we want to do all of this because we want a healthier business. If the business, I always tell people business is like an organism. It's a heart, right? And if you take care of your heart and you work out better, you're probably going to be taken care of better. You're going to feel better. You're going to be able to perform better in your life, right? You have to take care of the heart. The business is your heart and soul, right? And if you don't take care of it, it can't take care of you. And so we have to have a really strong business around all of these activities that you guys are doing, or it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how many books you read, how many one-on-ones we do. If the business is not doing well, nobody's going to have a job. How quick do you see the performance come from some of these tactics that you guys are using? Did you guys see it in a month? Did you see it in a quarter? Did you see it in a year? Because the business is performing well right now. And we had to kind of dig ourselves out of a mire, right? Like it was down at the floor. Yeah. And you guys have built it to be this strong killer brand again. But it wasn't overnight. So to talk about time, like when you work with these people, what should the listeners expect as far as timing and how much patience they should have to work with a team to build this type of ecosystem?
That's pretty tough to say.
It is, but that's why it's your opinion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For us with this, we looked at it, we're funding the future. Like when you're going out and raising money for the different funds, it's not something you're going to see an ROI on the fund right away.
No, you're not.
Not at all. But it was something where we started segmenting certain aspects of the business. And I'll go back to catering. We started right with a catering coordinator. It was our biggest opportunity. We saw the biggest revolving door around a key position in the building. So we started focusing on this individual that, we have one individual that controls 20% of our sales in the business. So it's like, oh, okay. We started there and we created tenure. And all of a sudden we started seeing quite a bit of results within less than 6 months when we started this program. And the whole program was all designed around how can I make it easy for them to do their job? That's time with me doing support and training, tools, understanding what tools they do need, and then incentivizing them with a bonus structure that allows them to self-manage themselves instead of us following up on specific metrics all the time. So for us, it started there and it trickled into other positions then.
Yeah. Back in the day, people got promoted because they were the employee that generally showed up on time, or they were really good on the line and really good in a position. We have a growth ladder, and it's for every single position in the brand that says, hey, if you're going to be an AGM, you need to be proficient at all of these things, not just operations, but can you talk to people? Can you work with employees? Can you work with the general public? How can you resolve conflict? How can you resolve these things? And we get together. If somebody doesn't know how to do those things, we collectively say yes or no on somebody getting promoted or if somebody belongs in that position. And once we started doing that, we started to really up the quality of our employees. And I would say that probably was about a year in the making to really get that to be part of our culture of saying, hey, this person gets promoted. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But no, it's like, no, can they do these things? Can they work with the people? Can they work with the public? Do they know how to do food costs? Do they know how to run labor? If it's no on any of those, it's like, no, let's give them some time.
And I would say a bigger question to anyone listening is, can you afford to not do one-on-ones?
Yeah, that's the question.
Like a lot of times
my answer is no, you can't.
Correct. You really can't. And that's like been a lot of our mindset. Can we afford not to do some of these things? And I can't see a world where I can say, yep, I can afford not to do one-on-ones, to not communicate and share my commander's intent with the team, because I want them to know what I'm thinking. I don't want them to be like, yeah, I don't know what Nate's thinking and why we're going in this direction. No, we want them to understand so that way they can contribute. And there is a lot of times where people, I assume you will not understand. Well, it's a 50-50.
Yeah, it totally is.
And one of those things involves me. in ensuring it. And it's like, I can control that.
Yeah, you for sure can. Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that you said about making sure that people have the tools. I think it's interesting that a lot of times people want to be successful, but you don't give them the tools to know how to be successful.
Right.
And that's important. It could actually be a technology. It could be a way to do something, or it could just be the mindset that they have to be a success, right? Yeah. Which I think that you guys just came off of doing like one of the largest catering jobs we've ever done, right? Did we do Days of 47 again this year?
Yep.
What is that, $250,000 catering job in a week?
Pretty close. Yeah, 5 days.
That's incredible. I mean, there's most businesses that couldn't even fathom doing $250,000 of catering.
Yeah.
And that's off-site. It's not like it's in the restaurant. That's off-site. That's hardest work you can do.
Yeah, it takes a lot of months of planning.
Yeah, lots of months of planning. But does a team, do they just tackle that and get after it because they're excited about it? Or do they like, oh, I don't want to do this?
It was so awesome this year because we used to have a catering center.
Yeah.
Right. When we had the Jazz, and we needed it for the Jazz and be able to do that. But we no longer are in the arena. So we didn't have the Jazz. So we no longer needed the catering center. So we needed to figure out where are we going to produce the food. And we had GMs come to us and be like, I'll take this. I'll take all the meats in my store. Another one's like, I'll do all the sides. I'll staff it up. I'll do it. They came to us saying, this is what we're going to do. And we had our district managers and trainers like not to sound like we weren't really involved, but Nate and I didn't have to pull a lot of weight.
That's amazing. That's an admittance of that's a good way to put it. So
Well, and I would say at the same time though, we had 2 smaller scale events going on at the same time at the North stores and the South stores.
Yeah, it's not like all the other business stopped.
No,
right? Like
they had their own mini Days of 47 with Fiesta Days, and then up there in Farmington with the big festivals. So it was like the stores owned it.
Yeah, it's
in such a beautiful way too.
So a couple last questions is, not everything is always rosy, right?
No.
So you're going to have people that don't perform, or that there's also contention between members of the team. How do you guys deal with conflict between leadership and teams?
Book club is one of the best places that we resolve a lot of any of that tension. There is nothing that is hidden from any of us. If there is any tension within the team, we get rid of it right then and there. We resolve it, or we figure out how to resolve it in our book club. I can't overemphasize how important getting together as a leadership team and discussing leadership principles can benefit a brand. It has changed our brand for the better. It's changed me personally for the better. But I think us doing that has made us closer and tighter as a leadership brand, because one, we are very transparent. So nobody holds things. They're like, hey, if I have a problem with this, we've had some pretty contentious meetings.
Yeah, we have.
Crazy contentious meetings
where everybody's swinging their books at each other.
Getting pretty close. Getting pretty close.
Yeah. People standing up, getting up out of their chairs, body language coming out, posturing and stuff.
But at the end of the day, we get to a place that we all feel good about it. We're resolved issues and tension, and we are all aligned.
That's incredible.
And I think one of the other things that we do is, I think a lot of times we take complete responsibility for my job and what I need to do, but I don't ever allow you to see what that takes. And so if we have a situation where it's putting me in an awkward situation, how am I supposed to do this aspect of my job if your behavior's like this?
Mm-hmm.
And it stumps them because they have to think about how they would approach or handle someone that's acting like they're acting like right now. And when we turn it back on them, it's how am I supposed to go and explain this? They're like, I don't know. I didn't even think beyond this emotional reaction that I'm having about this. And that usually allows us to dig into what's really driving the situation at this point. Because we're all human beings driven by emotion.
For sure. So my last question for both of you is, what excites you about the future? It could be for your career. It could be for the brand. Could be for just being a leader. What excites you?
For me as the brand, I don't have a lot of say in this part, but I think that we're at a part that I think Nate and I would like to start growing the brand again. We'd like to start building some stores. I know the ultimate goal is to sell, but for me personally, I'd like to open more stores. I'd like to add more leadership.
You're ready for growth.
I would like to add more opportunity because we have some great leaders in the brand that I don't want to say that are stuck because we don't have positions for them. I want to create positions for these people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that with that growth, growth is what is the ultimate fun, right? Growth energy for growth.
Yep.
It's always around that. And when I tell people my exciting part of my job is growth, it's because if you're not growing, you're dying. As a brand, you're going to die ultimately if you don't continue to grow.
Oh, for sure.
Your people, your offering, your footprint. And, R&R is similar to other brands in the industry as well as other brands in the savory portfolio. And that is sometimes you do need to pause and perfect.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And we're pausing and perfecting several other brands too,
right?
Where growth is not imminent for them right now because they have to get to where you guys are, which is ready for growth now.
Yeah.
And I think that too many brands out in the market right now, they're growing for the sake of growth. And they think if I grow, it'll solve these problems. The thing I've learned today is listening to both of you guys is you guys have really done a good job at laying the foundation and the groundwork and really the leadership traits, accountability, retention marks that I've never seen before where growth now is coming.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you that you're going to get your Christmas wish.
I think for me, one of the things that I'm looking forward to at the future is we want to turn R&R into a 100-year brand.
Yeah.
We want to figure out how can we be here forever? And selling is an aspect of that, but I think selling is fuel to turn us into a 100-year brand.
Absolutely.
And seeing the opportunity, seeing the tenure we have with our GMs, they're family now.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, can we take this to the next level? And for me personally, and I'm sure even for you, Andrew, it's like, I want to in the future be able to move away from the brand and still see it continue to grow into the future so that I can go to my grandkids and say, I was a part of that.
Yep.
Like I want that so badly to be like, that's my legacy right there. And it's still growing into the future.
Well, it's good that you said that too, because there's a lot of people that say, once I sell it, I don't really care. Like there's a lot of founders that will say, once I sell it, it's not my issue anymore. And in this industry, it's different. We were part of Neaters for so many years that once we sold it, we wanted it to continue to prevail and succeed and be better. You want that, right? Because it's part of your legacy. It's part of your history.
And the sacrifices you made.
Oh my gosh. Infinite amounts of sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, Nate hits it right on the head is we look at this brand as we know that Savory owns it, but it's Nate and I's brand.
For sure.
We put a lot of blood, sweat, tears, time into the growth of this brand. And, whatever the future holds and whatever I'm called to do within Savory, I'll do. But right now it's just like my whole dedication is to make R&R the best that it can be.
Yeah. Well, let's end on that because honestly, you guys are doing that. We're super proud of you guys. Hopefully everybody listened to this and took a few things from this because if you didn't, that's ridiculous because I took a ton from it. I actually was taking my notes myself and I wish I could just carbon copy that and put it into every business out in the industry because it would help every one of our businesses out there rise the tide, right? For everybody. And so hopefully people have listened to this, taken some things down, and they can implement it. If they have questions though, this is a pretty small industry, as we know. It's huge, $1 trillion industry, but it's a small industry where there's only so many emerging brands that really want to grow and will grow.
Yeah.
If they had questions, how did they get a hold of you guys? What's your email? They could just shoot you an email and say, hey, what's that book you're reading? Or how would you do a one-on-one?
Yeah.
We're here to help. So
Winward, EWINWARD at RANDRBBQ.com.
And yours?
And Breneman, NBRENEMAN at R&RBBQ.com.
Okay. So there you have it. You guys can contact either of these guys and ask them any question directly.
Yep.
That's why we're doing this podcast, is to help our industry and all of our counterparts out there succeed. And so I appreciate you guys sharing some of your tips and tricks.
Absolutely.
Thank
Love
you.
being here. Thank
Until next time.
Absolutely.